Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. So it's been a busy week here at Two Sisters Flower Farm. I shared on social media earlier how we finally got our annual beds prepped in our field, and we have all of our plastic mulch laid for the season. And while I'd love to share more right now about how we're planting and filling those beds, the reality is that we've been rained out these past few days. And so I thought that this week, instead of showing the more practical side of flower farming, I thought instead that I'd do a sit-down video where I show more details about the business side of things. This video was actually inspired by a question that I received last week during a Q&A that I was doing on Instagram. Last week on Instagram, this question popped into a question box that I posted within my stories. The question went something like this: is flower farming lucrative? Please share more. Honestly, it was a question that I was more than happy to answer because I think this is a side of flower farming that most people just don't talk about. And to be fair, this was probably one of the areas of flower farming that I was most curious about when I finally made a decision to turn my hobby of growing flowers into a full-fledged business. I mean, can you really make money selling flowers? And so in this video, I wanted to answer that question in more detail and really break down the profitability of flower farming, including talking about ways to be more profitable so you can go from a side hustle to full-time much faster. Let's just go right ahead and start with the big question I know everybody's wondering. Can you make enough money flower farming to replace a full-time income? The short answer is yes. It is absolutely possible to grow and sell flowers full-time. But there's so much more detail that goes into a question like that. While it is possible, I want to emphasize that flower farming isn't that get-rich-quick scheme that I sometimes think other people think it is. Flower farming is difficult because you're doing hard labor. You're working with Mother Nature, so there's a lot of unknowns and risk involved. Not to mention that you're working with a perishable product. So if you're looking to sell cut flowers, well, you have to be able to move those flowers rather quickly in order to turn a profit. When I first started growing cut flowers with the intention of selling them, I took time to read The Flower Farmer by Lynn Basinski. I actually have the book right here. This book, it was one of the few resources that I found that actually shared like real world numbers. And I was inspired because within the book, Lynn shared how, and I quote, small-scale commercial cut flower production can generate $25,000 to $30,000 an acre if the flowers are grown and marketed well. Now trust me, my first year of growing flowers as a business, I did nowhere close to that in gross revenue. But as I've gained experience flower farming these past few years, I can definitely understand the possibility within that statement. And I definitely think that she's onto something when she says that cut flowers are one of the highest grossing crops that you can grow per acre. Now I want to reiterate here that flower farming is diverse and there's no magic formula or one-size-fits-all business model that can guarantee a specific level of earning. The actual amount of money that you can take home from growing flowers, well, it will depend on the number of factors like who you're selling to. Are you selling retail or wholesale? It will also depend on the cost of your expenses and whether or not you're offering value-added services like wedding design or event florals. Flower farming is like any other business where it takes time to build. Flower farming friends of mine have shared with me their personal experiences, and most agree that it takes on average between 3 and 5 years to really start turning a decent profit. That's because for a lot of us, there's a steep learning curve that comes with growing flowers and running a business. Now, if you're one of those flower farmers listening right now that are really in it for the long haul and want to turn your passion into your full-time job, then I want to take the time to share parts of my personal experience to hopefully help make that transition much smoother for you. Specifically, I want to share with you 3 ways that I've learned to be more profitable during the flower season. So tip number 1 is to know your numbers. I think we often forget that profitability isn't always about the revenue, the money coming in. Sometimes the best way to become more profitable is by spending less on your expenses. Operating as lean as possible, especially in the beginning. In my opinion, that is one of the best ways to increase your net income. I know the temptation wanting your business to look the part, to be professional, and to look aesthetically pleasing. But in the beginning, that's when it's hardest to turn a profit because you're more prone to make mistakes that cost you money. I think one of the smartest things that new flower farmers can do is to get creative using the resources that you have available to you. You don't necessarily need a professional greenhouse, a large walk-in cooler, or expensive farm implements to get started. I personally think it's better to start small and to get a feel for what it's like to run a flower farm before you start making large investments. There's a lot of ways in which we got creative here at Two Sisters Flower Farm, especially early on. For instance, the first year that we operated our fall farm stand where we sold our pumpkins, we used these old apple crates that were literally falling apart for display. I still think I have some video of them, but my dad, he spent a lot of time rebuilding those crates using some nails and pallets that we picked up for free. Those apple crates may have been low budget, but they worked so well for us that we continue to use them each and every year since. Now, another part of knowing your numbers means that you have to know what is actually producing income on your farm. We've tried a lot of things here at Two Sisters Flower Farm. We've sold market bouquets, we've sold straight bunches of flowers, we've sold pumpkins and potted mums, and last year we started selling porch pots and holiday wreaths. Those sales outlets have all obviously brought in different amounts of money. In my early days of running a business, I kept a running list of all my expenses on a simple Excel spreadsheet, not really paying much attention to how much money I was spending per outlet, nor really knowing which sales channels were generating the most income. I was more concerned with those end of the year numbers, knowing whether or not we had turned a profit as a whole. I've since learned to track expenses and income for each of our different sales channels. This helps me make more informed business decisions. I can see which seasons on our farm are most profitable. I can decide in areas on the farm that I'd like to expand upon, or I can choose to cut certain products from our lineup that aren't performing maybe like I'd like them to. Unless you have a firm understanding of your numbers, every business decision that you make will just be a shot in the dark. Okay, tip number 2 is don't underestimate the value of repeat customers. This was such an important lesson for me in my flower journey. Now, you may think, like I did, that in order to bring in more money, you have to sell more product, which means you have to reach more people. And yes, the amount of reach that you have can certainly affect your business. But in my experience, reaching more people is actually easier when you focus on the customers that you already have. Now, let me explain. Repeat customers are one of the most valuable assets to your business because they do the marketing for you. It's like when you have a great experience somewhere and you want to tell all your friends about it. Maybe you go out for dinner and the food and service was beyond anything that you've ever experienced before. Of course you're going to go home and tell all your friends about it. You share that story with enough people and chances are that someone within your social circle is going to actually take it upon themselves to go and visit that same restaurant that you were just talking about. By telling your friends and family about your experience at that restaurant, you've brought in more customers for that business. And that restaurant didn't have to do a thing. They merely provided you, a current customer, with a great experience. I can't tell you enough how important it is that you treat your current customers, no matter how few of them that there are. Give them such exceptional service. And I'm not saying to give away your flowers or your product, but give those customers an experience that they'll remember. So they not only come back and buy more, but they also are willing to tell their friends and family all about you. That word of mouth will do more to bring in new customers to your business than any marketing campaign, trust me. So I want to share one more tip on how to become profitable faster. And this one's a little bit more untraditional, but it's really helped me. And so tip number 3 is to have others within your social circle that are further ahead of you. One of the things that has really pushed me to take bigger action for my own business is watching others take big action within theirs. I have a friend that is years ahead of me in business, and seeing her achieve big things, well, it inspires me to do more within my business because it's such a great example for me of what's possible. I like being surrounded by others who are further along in their journeys of growing a business because truthfully it helps me to become less complacent with what I'm doing. I don't know if I would have pushed as hard myself to become a 4-season flower farm as quickly as I did if I wasn't inspired to take action. When you're growing a business and you find something that works, for me at least, my tendency is to get comfortable and sort of coast along. But being witness to women who are achieving really great things, it really motivates me to reach for that higher level. I'm not sure even, but what is that quote? If you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. Well, it's sort of along those lines. I think this quote is so applicable in this sort of situation. The more that you can surround yourself with people that are doing the same sort of thing that you want to do, the more likely you are to be successful in doing whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. Again, I realize that this is not your typical business advice, but I share it because it's been such an important part of my own journey. So there you have it. I hope you take away from this video advice on how to be profitable within your own flower farming adventures. I don't know about you, but I really enjoy talking about the strategic side of growing a flower farming business. And actually, if you're looking for more resources on running a profitable business, I'll link some of my favorite business books in the description box below. So be sure to check those out if you're interested. Now, if you could do me a favor, especially if you found the information within this video helpful, could you please give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button below? We'd really appreciate it. Now, that is all for me today. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye, guys.